Okay, I started shooting the video and I realized that I already did that one. Okay, that's because my notes are squirreled. I did them very strangely this weekend, or last week. Last week was a crazy week for me. Okay, this is about Genesis chapter 18 and 19. Let me move this slippery thing out from underneath my journal. So, chapter 17, we have the circumcision. Now, Abraham was a bit of a nomad. He lived in a tent because he wandered around from time to time. And his people lived in tents, and they took the herd with them. I think when you have herds and stuff, you have to kind of be a nomad, so keep going from one place and another so that your herds can graze. Um, so Abraham's sitting in the doorway of his tent. It's a hot day, and he's getting old. Sarah's inside, and he sees three men. And so he does the polite thing, say, "Please come, have some food. Looks like you've been traveling a bit. Have some food, something to drink, relax. It's a hot day." And so the three men come over, and he doesn't know this at the time, but it's God and two of his angels, and they're on their way to Gomorrah, no, to Sodom. They're on the way to Sodom to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now we heard about Sodom and Gomorrah in earlier chapters where there's the war between the four kings and the five kings, and Lot decided to settle near Sodom later on because their combined herds and stuff like that were too much. So Abram went one way, Lot went the other way, and so as they're sitting there, um, you know, Abraham went and had some lambs or something killed and cooked and told Sarah to make some bread for their, and he brought out some other stuff for them to eat, and God, this is how Abraham knew it was God, said that Sarah would have a baby in a year, or in a year, yeah, in a year from now she'd get pregnant, whatever. And Sarah laughed. She heard this and she laughed, and she's like, "Abraham and I are old. What are you talking about?" Uh, um, anyway, Abraham asked God where they were going, and God was like, "Should I tell Abraham? Should I tell him?" Because God knew Lot was near Sodom. And so God said, Abraham's a good man. He's a righteous man. I'm going to tell him. So God tells him that they're going to check out Sodom because they've been hearing so much. He's been hearing so much about the wickedness. There's an outcry of people of the wickedness in Sodom, and that Gomorrah was getting just as bad. And anyway, he was sending his angels, which he did. He sent the two men with him to go down and check out Sodom. And God continued to talk and walk with Abraham. And after they ate, they got up and he sent the two angels onward, and then God just walked with Abraham, and they talked. And Abraham pleaded, and he's like, "Well, what about the righteous people there? Are you going to destroy everybody? I mean, what about the righteous?" And God said, "Well, that's what the angels are going to go down to see, how much you know are the righteous people there." And Abraham got God to say, "Okay." Abraham was like, "Well, if you find 50 people." God says, "Okay, I won't destroy the city if I find 50 people." And and Abraham's like getting a little nervous. He said, "Well, what if you find only 40 people, only 30 people?" You got it down to 10, and God said, "Okay, if there are 10 righteous people in Sodom, I will not destroy Sodom." And Abraham figured he'd push his luck as far as he could. I mean, he knows the God is a jealous and angry God, so he's like, "Okay." And Abraham went back to his tent, and God went to Sodom. Um, My question about this, chapter 18, is why are they walking? Why are God and the angels walking? But it said that they walked on earth back in those days, and there weren't that many people, so why not? I guess. I don't know. Anyway, in chapter 19, the angels had gotten to Sodom, and it was nightfall, and Lot was sitting in the gates. So was no longer living outside of Sodom, he was actually living inside Sodom. I don't know what happened to his herds or anything like that, but he saw them and he ran out and he stopped them and said, "Here, why don't you come to my house? Why don't you come to my house? Spend the night at my house. Have a great meal. Spend the night at my house." And they're like, "No, no, no. We're going to town square." And he's like, "No, no, no. Please, please, please." And he begged and finally convinced them to come to his house. And his wife and two daughters were there, and they, gave them food. And as the angels were eating, the townsmen. Now it says like the whole town, so I was like, wait a minute. There were several thousand people in Sodom. I'm not sure how big it was supposed to be, but it was supposed to be a pretty big city. But all the men, they said all the townsmen came and banged on the door and said, "Send out those two strangers so we can have sex with them." And Lot opened the door and came out real quick and closed the door behind him and said, "No, no, no." And he begged them to leave those men alone. And Lot didn't know they were angels yet, but he's like, "Leave those men alone. You've got to stop this." And the townsman's like, "No, no, no. This is our town. We get to do what we want. We want those men out here." I was like, so it's like gang rape. They wanted to gang rape these men. And Lot went so far to say, "Listen, I have two daughters who aren't married yet, have never had sex. I'll send them out." And they're like, "We don't want your daughters. We want those two men." And I thought that was pretty rude. But back in the days, daughters were the property of their father. So, um, Lot was very upset, and they started to attack Lot, but the angels opened the door and pulled Lot back inside, and then they did a blinding light to blind the men so that they couldn't see for a while, and they were able to get, and then that's when Lot knew that these were angels. It's like, he's like, "Oh my gosh." So, they told Lot, "Quick, get your daughters, get your future son-in-laws," because I guess they were engaged. The girls were engaged. "Get your wife, get your get your whole family, any sons, daughters, or whatever you have. Get them together and leave now, because we're destroying the city." And Lot was a little hesitant, but then he went and got his wife and daughters, and he went to his son-in-laws, and they laughed at him. So it's like really crazy city, and Lot was a little afraid to leave. And he was like, "Well, I can't leave. If I go anyplace, I'll get killed." It's like, I mean, the guy was really messed up by now. I don't know what happened to him, but he was totally freaked about everything, scared out of his mind to even get out of such a wicked, evil place. And some people are like that. We know that. Women caught in abusive relationships, and men caught in abusive relationships, they won't leave because they're too afraid. They're afraid of where they are, but they know where they are. If they go out someplace else, they're even more afraid that something worse is going to happen. So that was how Lot was right now. I was like, why didn't he leave and go to his uncle? I mean, this is crazy. But he was so caught up in the evil around him that he was terrified. And you see that today. Recently on social media, there's a woman that's connected. I'm in a group and this one woman is saying that she's scared to death. She's black. She lives in a black neighborhood, and she's scared to death to walk the street in her black neighborhood, not because of the white police, but because of the black people in that neighborhood. So some of them are just really evil and wicked and into drugs and stuff like that. And I was like going, and she wants to get out, but she's afraid to try. So yeah, it's some people get locked into those places and they don't know what to do. They're so full of fear they can't think straight. And that was Lot. So the angels actually grabbed Lot and his family and pushed them out and said, "Go, run." And 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 Lot was like, "Well, what about if I go to this place?" And they're like, "Fine, just go and don't look back. Just go." And so they ran to a place that ended called Zor, and the God rained down fire and brimstone, because that was the only righteous people those angels found. And the thing is that they didn't just destroy Sodom, they got Gomorrah and the other three cities nearby. Now, the historians say that near the south end of the Dead Sea, there are some very, very ancient ruins. Very ancient. They might have already been ruins in Abraham's time. But there was one really big city and like 4 or 5 smaller cities around it. So they're like, well, that could be the source of Sodom and Gomorrah story. There's no proof that they were called that or whatever happened, but something destroyed those cities. So, um, which I found very interesting. But Lot was afraid to be in Zor even. He was just terrified of everything by this time. And so he took his wife died because she turned around and she looked at Sodom being destroyed and she was turned into a pillar of salt. Why? I don't know. But that's what happened to her, supposedly, in this story. I have a feeling that something's been left out in the translations. But Sodom took his daughters and moved into a cave because he was just terrified of everybody and everything. So they were just the three of them living in that cave. And the daughters were like, we're never going to get husbands now. What are we going to do? So they got their father drunk, and one night the oldest slept with him and got pregnant. They don't even give these girls names. And the next night, the younger one slept with him and got pregnant, and their children became the people of the oldest one's children became the people of Ammon, and the youngest one's people became the Moabs, the Moabites. Now they were rivals of the Israelites, so it's kind of like, okay, so this little bit is tucked on the end here, and it's kind of like, yeah, whoever wrote this is like, yeah, and this is why we don't like the Moabs and we don't like the people from Ammon because they're born of incest. So that's just a little clip about what happened to Lot. So that's it for chapter 18 and 19. I'm sorry, I tried to keep this relatively short, but I guess 12 minutes isn't too bad. So I'll be back with another video soon. Bye.